This is why you need
So,
an intro.
yeah, I know. Right. So, I mean, it feels like it's been a while, but it's only been an extra day than usual. But we are obviously recording on a Monday night after, well, the first round of Premier League games. I mean, certainly, I don't think you thought that we'd ever get to this stage, but here we are.
Yeah, 12 games in. It's nice. It's been back. Have you enjoyed it?
I have enjoyed it. I'd love to know how many you've watched.
Well, I actually did just have a tot up, and it's 9.
What, nine in their entirety?
9 in the entirety. Yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive. And what were the reasons for the three you didn't watch?
Um, I don't know really. A couple I just really wasn't interested.
Yeah,
And then I don't know. Just kind of, I thought I'd best get outside or something.
well, that's the thing, isn't it? I like the you weren't interested because we are going to really end up picking and choosing some of
Yeah.
these. What were the ones you weren't really feeling?
So I didn't watch West Ham Wolves, Bournemouth
That's a bit
Palace.
harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one I just needed to be outside, and then Bournemouth Palace and Watford Leicester were the others.
So you had a busy Saturday by the sounds of it. You must have been up to something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't remember. It wasn't obviously anything interesting.
It was a very nice day. My head seems to be quite close to the camera because I'm trying to hide the rest of my body because I got quite burnt on Saturday. That's why I got the top button done up, even though it's gone 10 o'clock at night. But yeah, no, I was worse for wear watching them on Saturday. But like you, I have, to be honest, I've watched the vast majority. And to be honest, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed everything. I'd like to start with the thing that really does grind my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. But I can't stand the match effects, the sound effects.
Really?
Yeah. So for this, I watched back the games that have taken place on the highlights as well, like earlier, just to see what was going on. And I've been watching everything in normal stadium effects, and these games had the highlights on them. Sorry, with the sound, and I was like, "What on earth is this?" Because I knew I wouldn't like it, so I didn't really want to listen to it and then whinge about it. But there was a couple of things that I picked up on. So like Ben Chilwell scores an absolute worldie against Watford, and there's just this light applause afterwards, like we're watching a bowls competition or something. And then I think the famous one that seems to be doing the rounds is Aaron Moy takes a shot and it's well saved, and the goal effect goes off. I mean, because I think you've been watching it with the sound effects, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had the sound effects. To be fair, I think when when there's something happens that it's a problem. Like I think during normal open play, I think you can't tell the difference. So I don't think it's that much of a big deal. But obviously it is when a goal is scored or there's a shot, and then obviously there's a button delay. That's when it's a bit weird. But like in general open play, I don't mind it, to be fair, because you can't really tell much of the difference. But
Yeah, I mean, I get why, and I can kind of hear what you're saying. But for me, like watching the Newcastle game yesterday, Ollie Norwood, I don't know what was happening to him. He had an absolute nightmare, especially to begin with. And he gets the ball in the middle, goes to play it out right, just literally rolls it to St. Maximin. But it's just that I don't think you would have heard this, but on the natural effects, you just hear Chris Wilder going absolutely mental at him. But it's just, that's what I'm listening to. I prefer those little things like
yeah,
that.
I agree. I prefer. I don't have the choice. That's the problem. So
Well, we've well established your nefarious Danish television antics, so I don't think we want to go into that too much in case anyone of note does start watching.
exactly.
But are you all right with the drinks breaks and all of that? I mean, I can't stand them either.
Yeah,
I don't really
I think
get.
it's ridiculous. It just kills the game too much, and it's like when it's pissing down with rain and it's 8 o'clock at night and they're having a drinks break, and you're just thinking it's not even hot. Like I mean, I think it's because of they're probably the hydration for injuries, and obviously because they can't spit. So that's
the thing.
But it's just ridiculous, and it just kills the game. It kills momentum. It must be so frustrating because you could probably not see the ball for the first 20 minutes of the game, finally get into the game, and then all of a sudden it's a drinks break, and that's it. Your momentum's gone again. And
Yeah,
I
well,
think it's
we've
been
so
seen
many
a couple of times.
really slow first halves, haven't we?
Yeah,
So that's
really have.
happening, isn't it? And that drinks break's just been killing it even more.
I
Because
think just have one in the second half, if anything.
yeah,
But I mean, I don't think they should have them anyway. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. I think.
you know what? I was trying to think, because obviously the Euros are normally on at this time, but they don't have drinks breaks in the Euros, do they? Not unless it's above 28 degrees or something. So
Yeah.
maybe they could just do that. I could kind of understand.
They've had them in World Cups when it's really hot, like out in Brazil.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is just a bit over the top, and it's I think we said it before. It's just about the kind of being seen to be doing things and being proactive.
It is, but do you know what? I'd like to bring that up because I've actually been quite happy in the way that it hasn't actually been as bad as I thought it would be for that, like showing face. Like when the Bundesliga started, obviously there's going to be that world famous photo when Haaland scored and everyone's social distancing. But yeah, I've just obviously watched the City game. Like you have Phil Foden scores, everyone goes and hugs him. But I like that because I think, there should be that type of respect that, look, these people, as we've spoken about many a time, they've, been tested. They don't have coronavirus, so let's play. And do you remember there was all that chat to begin with about people turning out of tackles and all of that? I mean, look, at the end of the game, Matteo will get onto this, but Guendouzi's he's choke slammed Neil Morgan.
He's got
away with it today. So, I don't think they really care at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what? That's quite a good place to start, not with Brighton in particular, but the relegation zone. I mean, I enjoyed our preview podcast last week, just kind of looking at stuff. And I didn't think the bottom four would all lose their first game back. I was really expecting an absolute dogfight down the bottom. And I was just so surprised about how limp all the teams were. I mean, Watford, obviously, they're not in the bottom four. They're fifth bottom. They showed a bit of fight to score that late goal. But even they could have lost that game. Leicester really put on some pressure late on.
Yeah.
But for me, I'd just like to start with Norwich. I mean, they've got 8 games left now. There's 6 points adrift. Do you think they're as good as gone now?
Yeah. I mean, we said that even last week. I think they are. I mean, in that game against Southampton, they just didn't seem to offer anything really.
So open, weren't they?
Yeah, they just didn't show any kind of fight or resilience. And I just think that, I think they're as good as gone. They'll finish last. So, yeah, I've not even really, given it much thought apart from that, to be honest. I just don't see any way that they can get back that amount of points.
I agree, mate. I think they're very much gone. But where the real battle, I think, is going to come from the places above. So, just to reiterate, Villa are on 26. Then it's Bournemouth and West Ham, both level on 27. I mean, from the performances at the weekend, wow. I mean, I'd probably argue that maybe Villa showed the most amount of fight, but even them in the second half, it looked inevitable when Chelsea were kind of pulling ahead, scored the 2 goals in quick succession. But they were unlucky, Villa. They didn't get the equaliser. They had a couple of chances late on Trezeguet, and I know Jota had a chance. I mean, I was quite disappointed as well. I just feel that at the moment, they're almost putting too much pressure on Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, I think what I'm looking more at is their first game against Sheffield United, because in my personal opinion, I think Chelsea played really well. I think the way that they kind of just dictated the game and didn't allow Villa to kind of get up the pitch at all. Whereas in the Sheffield United game, they had a lot of chances and they just weren't clinical at all. And kind of Grealish wasn't really getting into the game as much as he probably should have. And, there is a lot of pressure on him. And obviously there's stuff going on with him outside of the football, which, you never know if that's going to have a difference. But I do worry for them now. Looking at their running that they've got now compared to West Ham and Bournemouth, it's definitely the hardest of the 3. And if they're not going to be clinical and they're not going to be able to kind of take games when they're there for the taking, I think I do really worry for them. Yeah,
and I mean, I've been surprised that I think it's Kenyan, I think that's his first name, but Davis up front. I mean, I was surprised to see him start the first game against Sheffield United. And you're right, they did have a host of chances, but it was mainly, from corners and dead balls. They had loads of corners in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, starting Davis, I
You
mean,
think he's a handful?
I do think he's a handful, but I know Samatta wasn't a ridiculous amount of money, only about 10 million. But what kind of message does that send? Because Samatta did come in and score a couple of goals. But if you're trusting a young lad instead of, I'm going to say it, a star striker in their predicament, I don't know. I think that's quite worrying that Dean Smith's, bought this player in. They spent £140 million this year. So the fact they were even able to spend anything in January was a bit of a miracle. Look, they've been very unlucky that Wesley's out for the rest of the season still, even though we've had this delay. But yeah, I'm just surprised they're not kind of building a bit more around Samatta, because Davis, even when he's been coming through at Villa, I mean, I don't know if you'll remember this, but we watched him play up front for Villa against Brighton when we went to that game. Yeah, well, there we go. You find out something new every day. But I genuinely was very impressed by him that day, but he's never been a goal scorer, and I just don't think that's what you need in this particular circumstances.
Yeah, that's a fair enough assessment, and yeah, like I said, I do worry for them a lot now, because I mean, obviously, I was saying how much I wanted them to stay up last week and how I thought that they'd probably had the most about them, but we haven't really seen that. And like I said, I do think that Chelsea did play really well, so I won't. But I mean, Wednesday for them is so big now. Like, they have to go and win at Newcastle. And obviously, after seeing how they performed the other day, they'll probably be a bit worried, I think.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I'm, obviously, as a Newcastle fan, I'd be shocked if they don't rest players ahead of the FA Cup quarter-final against Man City on Sunday. I think they should be very aware of the fact that City have obviously played tonight, but they're playing on Thursday night against Chelsea. So that's, what Guardiola's like. He's going to make sure that every single person knows that this fixture list is a joke.
Yeah.
And I'd be shocked if Newcastle don't rest players. And I think Villa could take advantage of that. Let's just quickly talk about the goal. Obviously, that wasn't. I was shocked at the time because I was obviously watching it and I was like, I can tell that's gone in. But I know a lot of pundits have spoken about this, and I don't want to dwell on this too much because it's almost a week old now. But it just makes me wonder how much you can really trust goal line technology. Simply because I remember when John Stones cleared it off the line from Sadio Mane, I think it was in January 2019 now. Wow. But if that had gone a different way, Liverpool could have beaten City, and that would have been massive in the title race. Yeah. Now, I remember when it took them an age to finally show where the ball was, according to goal line tech, and it was like 13 centimetres not over the line, which meant that the goal didn't count. It just worries me because when they came out of the excuse, they said that they said that it was crowded and that too many things were, they used a word that I can't remember right now, oculated or something. But I've just checked the replay. There was only, Neuland, the goalkeeper's holding it, and he hits Davis, but there's only one other player on the line.
Yeah,
loads of people were in the area, but it's not that. They said this is the first time it's happened out of 9,000 games. And I'm like, well, that's a bit worrying because that's the first time there's been an actual goalmouth scramble, more than one person on the line, and the equipment couldn't handle it. It's a bit worrying, really.
Well, I mean, for me, this was where the problem was. Like, I just think that was just such a bullshit statement to come out with. I mean, that isn't the reason. And the thing is, if it's gone, okay, the goal line technology for some reason, wasn't working, whatever. It's then gone to, you're sitting in the VAR room and you're looking and you're thinking, well, I mean, we can quite clearly see it's over the line, but can we be 100% certain? I don't think they can say yes. In that case, you have to say, look, it's an error. We can't definitely say the ball's over the line because of things like the Liverpool game where there was such a small margin. So I think they can't personally say it's definitely in, but then just come out and say that. Just come out and say, look, it is a massive error. We're not sure what happened, but we couldn't give the goal because we weren't 100% sure. And people will go, okay, that's stupid, but okay, fair enough. But now they've just said it was crowded, and it's like, well, everyone was watching the game on TV and it showed that angle where it just went straight through, like there was no one in the way on the line and everyone could see goalkeeper holding the ball. So I just think That was what my problem was with it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I just feel as though, the officials in general are becoming more and more redundant. We might as well go to a system where, well, look, I've got a problem with how over-reliant the officials are on VAR. I'd much rather, and this is what I mean for goal line technology, where the official has an opinion, he makes a decision, and we play on, and then we go back to it. So in that circumstance, I don't think that in the same way that basically linos are going to be redundant, because we don't need to know if they're offside because we've got VAR, and we don't they're not using it for whether the ball goes out of play, but they could do if it led to a goal or one of those serious errors. But I kind of feel as though they might as well put goal line tech into that category where we've got it, we can use it. But what we can do is, so just, what I always struggle with is everyone seems in such a rush, because there were so many opportunities in that game. I think it was 53 seconds until the ball actually went out of play. You can check it during that time and just get the referee to stop the game before, obviously it restarts from a corner or whatnot, and then we can recheck it. So we don't have to be like, oh, the watch hasn't gone off, because, it's one of those things that particular bit of tech, the watch in this circumstance, has never down in the past. So now it has, people will be second guessing it. But before, we had complete trust in that. We've never had complete trust in VAR. So look, as humans and as football fans, we've been watching football since we've, 2 years old, whatever, growing up. But the fact is that we've now got to get used to this whole system. So we might as well just, go back to almost how it was beforehand, and then almost use VAR as like a fact-checking system, instead of it being like the thing that we refer to straight away in terms of goal line tech. But I hopefully that era will actually be a good thing, and maybe we'll become, less reliant on technology. But only time will tell.
Yeah, I suppose only time will tell. And I personally think that it is just something that's happened. I think out of anything, goal line technology is just a fact. It's either in or it isn't, and we've got the technology to say that, so fine. Whereas with VAR, it's still subjective. So, I think have the faith in the goal line technology, and then VAR is gonna be what it's gonna be. I think it will hopefully develop a bit, but it's hard to tell.
It was ironic, though, wasn't it? We wait 100 days for football to come back, and in the first game, it's marred by the most ridiculous incident. Yeah. But that is typical of where we're at. Just to leave it with the relegation chat. Obviously, massive win for Brighton. They're now on 32 points and 5 points clear. Would you say that they are now safe? Obviously, they're not mathematically safe, but do you think they're going to pick up enough points in these final 8 games where it's going to mean it's just going to be 5 teams down the bottom fighting it out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 5 teams, and, I think they've shown that they've got that in them, and they can go and pick up points, really. It was a poor Arsenal side, but, I think they've definitely got enough, and it's the 5 down the bottom, or 4 if you don't count Norwich and that, who are as good as.
Yeah, I'd like to think that. I'm still, as ever, a bit sceptical about Brighton, and I've got to say it was an incredible comeback, really. Especially after Nicolas Pepe scored that goal, I thought there was only going to be one winner. But you're right, they've got that bit of a cushion now, and it was a massive win, really was. So I hope they will obviously build on that and stay up. But staying with that game, it's been such a disastrous comeback for Arsenal, obviously, to lose these 2 games. But I feel like Arteta's been really unlucky. You saw in that warm-up game when they played Brentford, David Luiz was off the pace. He makes a mistake for the goal, and you can see that Arteta's made the decision not to play him. He starts Pablo Mari against Man City. Now, I saw a fact. I haven't checked it, so don't quote me on this, but apparently Mari played like 260 consecutive games, which I think sounds incredibly high. But look, he's someone that does not pick up injuries. Yet, he's actually managed to rule himself out for the remainder of the season twice in one season. That's how unlucky he's been with injuries. But that's what I mean. Poor old Arteta. He's gone there. He's dropped Luiz. He's brought in Kieran Tierney as well. He's trying to do something else. And then, within 20 minutes, not only has Mari got injured, but it was, what was it, Xhaka as well who came off?
Yeah, Xhaka went off. Yeah, I think he's been unlucky, and Arsenal are there's just no leadership. There's no kind of, they don't impress you at all just looking at them. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at them and you just think there's nothing about them. I mean, obviously they've got some great strikers, but obviously they can't do everything on their own, and they're still not leaders. Do you know what I mean? Those like Aubameyangs, Lacazettes, they're not leaders. They're not probably the big characters that you need in dressing rooms like that. And yeah, I've just been so unimpressed, really.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I said last time we spoke, I mean, you've got players like Aubameyang, almost demanding more money. I just think it's really is time to do a proper rebuild there. I know they've tried to do it in installments almost, but
They don't spend the money like that. Do you know what I mean? They need a lot of players, and they need big players that are going to come in, and it's like, you need players that are young enough to then build upon, and it's hard, and those players are not cheap.
They're not cheap, but I mean, they've obviously got prize assets like Mesut Ozil, and it's it's now the third manager that he's taken on. Not, I mean, look, I don't know if he's got a problem with Arteta. I don't know what the situation is, but there's been problems with Wenger. There's been problems with Emery. Now there's a problem with Arteta. And he's not in the squad for the game last Wednesday. Then he puts up, did you see the Instagram or Twitter? He might have put it on both. Just put up a photo with him, holding the club badge. Basically, I can't remember the caption. It was something to do, I'm in it together with you. But it's a photo from like the 2015-16 season. Let's go back quite a long way to find him doing that. He's not playing against Brighton. And I'm seeing that he's linked with Fenerbahce. And it's like, well, if that's the only clubs that he's interested in, because I was thinking about this earlier, Bayern Munich have an unbelievably strong squad, but they're still willing to sign Kai Havertz if they think it will improve it. Don't get me wrong. Look, Havertz has got sell-on value and he's young, and I get that. And he's obviously a different player to Ozil. But my point is, if he's good enough, they will incorporate him. And they're not even looking at Mesut Ozil. And I just feel as though that when you've got Fenerbahce as like the team that he's potentially going to go to, it's quite damning, really, of what's ended up happening in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should have left
Long time ago.
Just I think it's kind of the same as, not exactly, but kind of, you can compare it a bit to Pogba in the sense of how much stick he gets from the fans, and considering that he has actually been a good player for them at some point. So he should have left a long time ago, and I would be very surprised if he was still there, after this season.
But and that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's those players that are on big money, and I think the media and fans as well, they just want to see those players justify it, and we haven't seen that. But that's the team I wanted to talk about next. And I know that, you messaged me on Friday night when we were watching the Man United game. And Pogba was genuinely exceptional when he came on. He played that pass that, everyone loved. But it was the way that he won the penalty. But it was just the way that he changed the game, because it was such an important sub. And, with no disrespect, but I don't think it was the introduction of Mason Greenwood at the same time. Don't get me wrong, Greenwood didn't play badly, but it looked dangerous. If they could get Pogba and Fernandes to link up, there could be a real problem.
You can just see, I mean, the lift. Man United were kind of a bit on their heels. They were kind of a bit sloppy. He comes on, and all of a sudden, there's an intensity about everyone. And I think, that's just the person that he is. I reckon if you were training with him day in, day out, you'd realise how much of a personality and a player he is for them. And people respect him, and people, look up to him. And I think he comes on and he drives them forward, and he obviously, his quality is obviously not in question. And I think he'll be massive. And, you'll probably see him start this week with Fernandes, and then, I think we can really get a look at what it's going to be like for them. But it's encouraging.
No, it is encouraging, and as I've said to you many a time, it's refreshing that he's able to actually finally play a game. It's his first game since playing against Newcastle on Boxing Day, but even that, it was so intermittent, his appearances at the beginning of the season. But he can begin to rewrite the narrative, and that narrative does come from pundits. And I still think, probably the biggest talking point, arguably from apart from the Sheffield United goal, probably was Roy Keane's comments at half time.
Yeah,
I haven't spoken to you about this. I would love to know what you thought of them.
It was, I mean, for TV, it was absolutely hilarious to watch. Him having an absolute meltdown. I agreed with what he was saying because the defending and goalkeeping was woeful. I mean, I think Harry Maguire, I don't rate him at all. I wouldn't play him for England. De Gea has now I just think he's completely sunk as a character. I don't think, he can. Obviously he's a good goalkeeper. There's no denying, but he has made so many errors in the last couple of seasons. And
World Cup, yeah.
It is evident. And I think. I was speaking to my mate about it, and I was saying, it is the personality that he is, and in that dressing room that he was in, people would be fiery like that. But when he's I would have punched him in the face, it's like, well, you probably wouldn't have done that, would you? Like,
well,
it was a bit over the top, but at the same time, I agreed with what he was saying, and he is a massive Man United fan. He loves the club, and he hates how it's gone downhill since his kind of generation left, I think.
Yeah, no, exactly that. But do you genuinely think that he was kind of like exacerbating it because he's on TV? Because the way I think of it,
I think massively plays up to that persona that he's now kind of generated over the years.
Yeah.
I think there isn't, not all of it, of course, because he is that kind of quite aggressive and kind of moody character in general. But I do think now he does play up to it a little bit much for me.
Well, my take on it is that obviously we've played to a pretty poor level, and I'm sure you've seen dressing rooms get fractures at half time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So my thought process about this is that Roy Keane was the captain of Manchester United when Manchester United were arguably the biggest club in the world. Now, if I'm playing for AFC Vindinians and someone loses their head at half time and it gets a bit angry, I'm going to think that if they're challenging for not just the Premier League, but the Champions League, when Roy Keane says that he would have punched someone at half time, I reckon he would have. And I think that was more of an insight into what it was like in the Manchester United dressing room from back then. Now, I get what...
Punch, though. Maybe he would have squared up. He might have had a little... But he wouldn't have punched him in the face.
Mate, honestly, I hear so many things about training ground bust-ups that I wouldn't be surprised that, it means so much to him.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to say, is that Sir Alex Ferguson ran the club. There's no denying that. But Roy Keane takes pride in the fact that he ran the dressing room. And he ran the dressing room during Manchester United when they were obviously incredibly successful. And to him, now, I'm not sure if he does play up to the cameras, because although I know it's obvious to say that he does, I still feel as though he's sitting there, 20 years on from when he ran the club. Because, I'd say the turn of the century was when he really did, up until about maybe 2004. He left in November 2005. And he has just seen that club decline and decline and decline ever since he left, but obviously, especially since Ferguson left. And as you've just said, we've seen David De Gea make mistake after mistake, like I said, especially since the World Cup. And he's there and he's seeing it once again, and he's just fed up with it. Because this club, and as he said, and he makes a real point of talking about this is just top four. This isn't trying to win the league that he's used to. So he's fed up of Luke Shaw heading the ball when he's got no one near him, could just easily bring the ball down. Yeah. He's fed up of his goalkeeper making another error that's led to another goal. And he cannot believe that Harry Maguire's cost £80 million when he's played with Jaap Stam, Rio Ferdinand, and, players of top quality. So I just feel as though for him, he's just gutted that his club, because, obviously he's got allegiances to Forest, whatnot, but that is what everyone associates Roy Keane with. And he's just gutted that they're in the same position once again, that he's sitting there on Sky Sports on a Friday night. And I'm looking at the table right now. They're 5 points off Chelsea to finish in the top 4. And he's probably thinking, am I really here? And to be fair to him, he mellowed out at the end of the second half because the second half was better. I just think he says it how he sees it. And I think fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean, I agreed with everything he was saying. And, it was, I didn't have a problem with watching it, and even if he does play out to the persona, it doesn't necessarily bother me. I think he's a good pundit. There's definitely worse pundits that I would absolutely watch less, than him. But yeah, I mean, it is bad the way that it has come out. But I think that, it might be turning a little corner maybe if they can kind of finish this season strongly.
Yeah, I think the thing for me was I just went onto Twitter because obviously it was so shocking because you don't normally see that. Even if pundits have got an opinion, they don't go that crazy. And I do respect that. But I obviously follow a lot of journalists, and to a man, they were slating Keane, calling him a caricature of himself. This has gone on too long. He's just playing a character. Someone called him an embarrassing little man. And that was the point that I just was like, are you actually taking the mick? You have a career writing about football because of people like this. And this, I just thought it was an incredible insight, but there we go. And it's good because you do agree with me, so it's all right. It's all good.
Silly not to.
Exactly. I mean, for me, as you said, Chelsea did play well, although I still thought that Villa were decent. I'm looking at Leicester now, and it was another good point. I think it's going to be a bit of a miracle for United to catch up with either of them.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea I think they were really strong. And I think probably that gap might just be too big because I can't see Chelsea dropping as many points as that, to be honest. So I do think it could be hard for them. But then obviously, bear in mind the Manchester City result that we're waiting to hear next month, which could mean that they might get Champions League anyway. So, I think there's still that to play for, and I think that they will be picking up more points than they're losing.
Well, if that does happen, it'll be very interesting because United are level on points with Wolves, and I know you didn't watch the game in its entirety, but they have, I don't know the exact stats, but the amount of late goals they score, and it really does seem to be coinciding with the fact when they bring Adama Traore off the bench, because Nuno is so happy just to keep it really, really tight, really conservative, then unleash Traore, and I mean
he's a monster.
It was unbelievable.
Yes. Monster of a man.
He is a monster of a man. He's a genuine top player. But I'd like to talk about the top of the league. I mean, I feel as though I haven't found out anything that Man City are able to kind of steamroll teams in these type of circumstances. I always thought that they'd be decent, with no crowd there. Not because they're used to it, as people like to say, but it's, it's a relaxed circumstance. They made 8 changes tonight and still won 5-0. It's incredible. And it's great to see Phil Foden getting a run out and getting some goals. Yeah. I'd just like to speak to you, obviously, as an Everton fan. I mean, you made things really difficult for Liverpool. So much so that their recent form is actually pretty shaky.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take away from what they've done. You just look at the table, they've won 27 out of their 30 games. It's genuinely incredible. Yeah. But do you almost think that this, because we spoke briefly about this last week, about a legacy and how the title race is going to develop next season, because you can almost begin to plot things already. Do you think that if Liverpool go on to have an indifferent end to the season where, they say they win 5 games and get a couple of defeats, whatnot, do you think that will actually kind of smear this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, of course it could. I mean, I'm trying to, I try and put myself in a Liverpool's player position where, you come into this break and you've won the league essentially already. And now they couldn't win it yesterday. Now they can't win it on Wednesday. And it's just kind of dragging on. And it's obviously I'm sure when they get their hands on the trophy, it will feel nice, but it won't fill them with that same satisfaction. I can't believe that, if they'd have won it a few years ago, it would have felt the same as it does now. But I think on the game yesterday, I think Everton tactically were really good. Should have won the game, had the better chances. And I think for the first time, the effect of the crowd really played a part. I think because in those kind of games, those derbies, I mean, the rivalry is the fans. It's that atmosphere, especially at Goodison. I think it was pretty flat. It was pretty uneventful, apart from the last maybe 15 minutes. And Everton allowed Liverpool to have the ball, and they did. They rested a lot of players, I think, blah, blah, blah. But in the legacy, I mean, it probably does. I mean, it won't be the same, will it?
No, it won't be the same. But does it, going back to the game, does it bother you how defensive you were? I know, obviously, I respect the fact that, you have to pander to the opposition how good they are. But as a Newcastle fan, we come in for a lot of criticism, especially under Rafa Benitez, when you play incredibly defensively against teams like Man City. So, I know it's a derby, but do you not feel as though you would like to see a bit more of an attacking intent?
I mean, yeah, for me, I said it at the time, I was like, I think we could have been a bit braver, of course. But then you always run that risk against Liverpool, who, I mean, their press was still phenomenal yesterday. They were pressing so high, and you still run that risk of them getting steamrolled because, and I mean, Salah didn't even really feature. So it was, they had more to give. But Carlo tactically got it really well. He's done well against Liverpool in the past as well, allowing them to have the ball, and they didn't really cause us any problems. And then, I think, for sure we could have been braver, but at the end of the day, it's a better point for us, if in the general scheme of things. And I think we've got a lot of really winnable games against teams above us, and I think it puts us in a good position to push for a spot in the Europa League.
Yeah, and I mean, it's that almost race for the Europa League, obviously, because of what's happening with City and the way the FA Cup's fallen. A team could win that and it will eventually give up the next league position. So they're saying there's a chance as far down as 8th may well be in the Europa League this season. Yeah. At the moment, that's Spurs on 42, above them Sheffield United on 44 before we reach Wolves and Man United, who I don't think will be caught.
I mean, Everton have to play all three of those teams as well. So,
right. So that's my thing that I'd like to know from you. Even if you weren't to make the Europa League this year, and I don't think that we've spoken to you enough on this podcast about Everton. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti's come in. As far as I'm concerned, he's done a good job. We've obviously had the suspension of football, but you haven't won in your last 4 games. Spent a lot of money at the beginning of the season. How do you feel he can take the club forward, and what does he have to do for it to be deemed a success?
I think just, first of all, just having him as a manager gives the club such a boost, to have someone of that caliber in charge, and just even seeing him on the sideline looks a bit surreal, really. It's strange, but you kind of look at him and you just would not associate him with Everton, really. And it's kind of nice to see that that's obviously the direction that we're going in. I mean, we need kind of a big striker. I mean, Don Calvert-Lewin, I think he's been brilliant this season. He really has. But he's not getting 20 goals, 25 goals. He's up there and he's getting a fair amount, but we need that big striker, I think. And I mean, defensively as well, I think we need a couple of players. And I mean, he hasn't obviously had a transfer window, and obviously I don't know what he's going to get now before the season starts again to kind of really make the team his own. But I think just tactically, the team's going to improve a hell of a lot. And I mean, I'm interested to see over the next few games against the lower teams, like obviously they're not the standard of Liverpool. And I think hopefully, because I think we can open teams up and counter-attack like that, because we have got pace and Calvert-Lewin is really strong. And, I think he's done a good enough job as what he could have done in the time that he's been there, considering everything that's happened.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm not a fan of players like Tom Davies. I don't really get him.
Yeah.
I think he's incredibly lightweight and very petulant as well. But players like Moise Kean, I want to see him involved more. I know he's had quite a difficult season, obviously the sub that was subbed, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But they're the things that I just feel that he needs to work on really. But yeah, you're right. He's had a good year. And just looking at the table, to be honest, I mean they're right level with Newcastle, both on 38 points, and you've got Burnley a point above them on 39, and Southampton below them on 37. And I kind of feel as though those teams are of kind of similar standing at the moment. Obviously they're right next to each other in the league, but it doesn't really surprise me that they are. I think they're all in fairly similar circumstances. But from the two, you do obviously feel as though Everton would be the one to kick on with Newcastle. And looking at it, they're probably the only team that we haven't spoken about so far today. So I know you wouldn't ask me, so I'm going to have to do it.
You must be delighted. Do you think it flattered you a bit, or?
Yeah, I did actually. I don't want to be too cutting because obviously, it was a delight to finally win a game comfortably, 3-0 as it was. I just felt as though that it's good that he's, persisting with this 4-2-3-1 formation. I was surprised that he kept Matt Ritchie in. Obviously, the Southampton game was 3 months ago, but I thought he'd try and bed in Lazaro a little bit. He didn't even come on to the 89th minute, so I don't think he's a massive fan of his. But we've managed to change from 5 at the back, which was, incredibly boring. And we've still kept the defensive solidity. It has meant dropping Fabian Schär. So if any club scouts are listening to this, you could buy an incredibly good ball-playing centre-half who we ended up bringing on and playing CDM. So you'll probably be able to snap him up for not too much money. But no, I mean, look, obviously, the game was decided on the red card. I'm not biased. I thought it was a red card.
I agree. I think it was as well.
Yeah, and it came from Joe Linton and his work ethic. I mean, I was delighted, obviously, for him. And it's easy. What I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to go down the same route where it's like, oh, Joe Linton scored, it's the new dawn. I mean, I was impressed with what he does in the game. As usual, his link-up play is decent. The miss in the first half, I honestly thought that if he'd scored that would have been the turning point. Now, although he has scored a goal, I feel as though everyone thinks they would have scored that goal. So it doesn't feel like a monumental moment. When he was running through, I was like, if he finishes this, I genuinely feel as though we can begin to move on. Now, he has scored.
What even did he do? Like, how did he do that?
I don't know if you've seen, but
I just looked at it, and from like the obviously in live time, you watch it and you just think like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Just the way he's kicked it is so strange.
Well, we played against Oxford in the FA Cup and it was away and he ran through and it was a bit more central to that, but he opened up his body really nicely and tucked it in the corner. Now, I think he went to do exactly the same thing, but he was coming from a bit more of an angle on the left.
He was a bit straighter on, I think.
And when he's opened up his body, the defender's coming from that side as well. He's a bit closer than when the defender was against Oxford. So I think at the last second, he's tried to switch it and go at Henderson's near post.
Yeah.
And he's just fallen over.
He should have just taken on his left. I don't understand. I think players try and do that too often. But
exactly that. But look, you've got to look at the positives. But the biggest thing for me is the goal that he did eventually score is what our biggest problem all season has been. Amron got to the byline and pulled it back. Now, Joe Linton has played the whole season with his back to goal. That's his biggest problem because quite clearly he is not that type of striker. But if we had more fast players, as we're now beginning to develop with, obviously, Almiron and St. Maximin, to get to the byline, bring the ball back to him, then I think we would actually begin to see a much better player. Yeah. Because, like I said, I think everyone thinks their granny could have scored that goal. But that is what you'd like to see more of from his perspective. But yeah, Ender Stevens, I don't know what he was doing for the first goal. He tries to hit it with such power as well. That's why I just love it, because I think we said before that, you don't see too many gaffes in the Premier League. Those DVDs that used to come out when you were a kid, and it was like the goalkeeper threw the ball, and I remember it was like Shay Given and Robbie Keane
went backwards,
just run past and just put the ball in the back. And it just like made me, because it was like the pitch was really bobbly or something. It's just not something you see anymore. He hit it with such gusto, and he just missed the ball completely. And then I mean, I don't know what Dean Henderson was doing for the second goal. I haven't seen him get criticised for it, but I mean, it wasn't like Richie put it in the top corner. It was at a decent height.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be too negative. We caught Sheffield United on an off day, but we were good and we were promising. And
I think so as well. I think you can take a lot of positives. I mean, you were obviously saying last week about how you thought you could get dragged into it. I think probably you were being a bit pessimistic, but surely now, that's you safe for another year at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're 11 points clear of the drop zone with 8 games to play. So yeah, I do think we're up now. I was worried, especially to do with the away stuff that we've been seeing from the Bundesliga, but that hasn't really happened in the Premier League. From the opening round of fixtures, obviously there's been a couple of surprising away results, but not ridiculous amounts. So I was worried about that, but that hasn't come off. So yeah, I mean, it's something to build on. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I think we'll rest players against Aston Villa and then look towards Sunday. But yeah, I mean, you can't, even as pessimistic as I am, you can't be too miserable about a 3-0 win.
I don't
Right.
think you can.
I'm going to enjoy this one for once, mate. And
I think you should.
I've enjoyed this first kind of review podcast. You've been imploring me to get it down to about half an hour. And I'll be honest with you, I've genuinely tried to do it and stumbled over my words and rushed it quite a lot. But I started this timer late and it's already on 44 minutes. So, I mean,
it's all right.
You're going to be...
It was a good chat.
Once again.
No, it'll be fine.
You can edit out the bits that you didn't enjoy. I mean,
I enjoyed it all.
That's good to hear.
I could listen to you talk all day.
Well, I could listen to you talk all day. And the good thing about that is we're back on Friday morning.
Indeed, we are. We'll be looking at the weekend games and the weekday.
Yeah, I mean, just having a little look through it now. I'm not going to do too much of a preview, but there is obviously big one. I mean, you'll be listening to this on the Tuesday. So tonight we've got Leicester against Brighton at 6 and Spurs against West Ham at 8:15. But Wednesday's your problem because you've got 4 games at 6 o'clock. So quite how you're going to start catching up on
live on the BBC. What could you want?
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it was, like you said earlier, it was kind of earmarked as this would be the round of fixtures when Liverpool won the title, and it hasn't really. Well, it's not going to transpire like that. And I'd say that there's a lot of interesting games, but no real standout ties during this midweek. Just going through it, lots of teams with stuff to play for. Wolves at home to Bournemouth. I mean, you've got Southampton against Arsenal. Saints kind of it's almost become a mid-table clash, that one, which is kind of mad to think about it. But it will be City away at Chelsea on the Thursday night. I think that will be certainly the biggest tie of the round.
But I look forward to it.
Well, something you won't believe, on Friday night, there is no football. So it's already happened that...
And to the pub then.
It's the 4th of July, isn't it? Yeah. But despite this bonanza of football, we're already without a game, and the weekend gets a bit skewed because of the FA Cup, but there's still plenty to chat for.
Indeed, and we will catch you next time.
We will indeed. We'll be back on Friday morning, so thank you very much.